Oh no, I broke it. 1 minute. 1 minute, I'll do it. Hold on. How we doing, everybody? Good to see you. Hope everyone's having a good one there. Where is it? There it is. I see it. I fixed it. It's all good. Sound? Yes. Everything's loud. Everything's loud. Nothing's right. There we go. Oh, and the Be Right Back is on because I hit F2. I'm so prepared. How we doing today, everyone? Hello. Hello, hello. Rebecca, because Malarooney, Various. You wish the trailer was? Yeah, I know it's not. It's kind of weird that it's not in there. So, yes, exactly. So, but I hope everyone is having a good Saturday. Thanks so much for hanging out for the random build in Planet Zoo here. So yeah, we're just gonna pretty much be excuse me, just doing some random building in Thornton Hills Zoo. Oops, let me switch it over here. There we are. But yeah, so yeah, we're just gonna kind of do some random building for a few hours and go from there. I know people are gonna ask, but no camera today. Sad news, but yeah, I slept. I must have. I slept terribly on my back last night. So the only way that I can, the only way that I can kind of stream and be good to play the game is like leaning way back in my chair right now on a heating pad and stuff. And the camera can see like nothing. So you'd see like my arm moving. So yeah, so everyone that's like here for the goods, for the face, you're out of luck. You're SOL. See, yep, there goes Rebecca, there goes my mod. There goes Mel, she's out of here too. I guess I need a new mod. Anyone want a mod? Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. So here we are. Here's Thornton Hills Zoo. I haven't really thought about what I wanted to do at all today, to be honest with you. I don't know if y'all saw, but we just added in the new wolf area over in the North American section over here. If you haven't seen, pick me. See, yeah, here they come. Here comes everyone. Pick me, no me. If you haven't seen that yet, I guess spoiler. There's a timber wolf habitat. I really like how this turned out, and apparently a lot of other people did too. I shared this on Reddit, and a lot of people were fascinated by it. They liked it there. So yeah, but if you haven't seen it, there's a video on it, or here it is. Here's one of the little puppers. Hey, puppers. So there's one puppy there, and then there should be another one. I think we have two females. I could do the easy way to try. There it is. I was saying I could do the easy way to try and find it, but I'm gonna try and actually find it. Whoa! Let me turn up a little bit, although it's already up enough. All right, oof yourself. That 21 notifications, yeah, it's it's been there for a long time, and it's gonna be there until I finish the prairie area, or the Great Plains area, basically. It's just all, it says that all these animals are escaped for some reason, even though they're just in the trade center. You can see here, they're all just, it's all the bison and pronghorn that I have, and they're just, it's just yelling at me, because yeah, it thinks that they're escaped, even though they're just in the trade center. You know, just things. Just things. All right, so we're gonna start at the beginning of the zoo, and I just need to do like some cleanup stuff. There's been a few things that people have mentioned in comments that I definitely have wanted to do, but I've just kind of skipped over. Yada yada, this, that, and the other thing. So we're just gonna kind of go through, and what the heck? I've done this every time I film cinematics. I add benches around this because people walk through them, and they never save. So now you all are witnesses to this. You all are my witnesses that I am indeed putting down benches. I don't know what it's look like. And trash cans so that the guests can't walk through my heckin' fountain. I don't want you to walk through my fountain. All right, I'll put boop, 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 boop. All right, so you see it, right? Everyone, we're all in agreement that you see that. I've got to get my PC and hook up the headset. My honey is power napping. We woke up at the crack of dawn. I had a physical and went for breakfast. I had 2 Bloody Marys because he didn't finish his. Well, of course. So you don't want to be wasteful. You don't want to be wasteful or anything like that. So there it is. You do. It's right in front of you. Open your eyeballs. All right. So let's go look at our. Let's go look at our flamingos here. They had some babies because they turned on birthing and babies and death and all that. So they had some babies. I can't. Maybe that's one right there. They seem as though they have grown up already because time moves crazy fast in this game. Yeah, there's one, two years old. There's another one that's 2 years old. They're like white, and I read that they're white when they're born, but they get more pink the older that they get. So there you go. There you go. So now you know that like this is an old one probably. Yeah, 17 years old. How long do these things live for? How old do you go? Excuse me. We're actually going to do some building today too, by the way, I promise. I'm not just going to dink around. They live till they're almost 60? Get the F out. I'm just always amazed at animals that live like really old and stuff like that. A really long time. Okay, yeah, here. Someone mentioned that for access for, for everyone, for like wheelchairs and strollers and stuff like that, that we should add a little ramp over here. I think that's a fantastic idea. Because I have mentioned it several times that when I can, like to make things all inclusive, for everybody. The lack of type search. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, actually, that there's no search function like that, to be honest with you. To be perfectly... Oh, that's not the one I want. To be perfectly honest with you, that's kind of nutso-butso. That's nutso in your butso. So we'll just do wall decorations and slap some of these windows as walls, but not really on here. Oh wait, what am I doing? Let's make this better. Do this better. Notice that M doesn't work when you have it on X-axis like that, which is kind of a bummer. Your IRL zoo animals need water. The notification for that one is way worse than the ones from Planet Zoo. Oh, the kitties. I was like, what? Yeah, what else? Your kitties. Indeed. It's really hard to see over here. There we go. Need search in the Zoopedia. Yeah, it just kind of seems like a duh thing to do, Is this wide enough? I think we're gonna need to make, well, yeah, we're gonna make it a little bit wider. Or I can change the color in this. Good. Make it like that much. So you're gonna need to bring this out just a little bit, separate it, bring it forward. See, I don't know about y'all, but this is why subtle little terrain changes are really cool, because you get just little differences. Like, I don't know, it's awesome. It's cool, okay? What's up, Oscar? Long time no see. Cats need some water. Ozzy summons the angry mob, follows me upstairs, and continues to meow me to death. Nice. You play any other games like the new Star Wars? It's amazing. No. Because it requires money. And any additional funds go, it feels like, to just to bills or an animal, or oh great, the car has a flat tire, or yeah, it just feels like we haven't had any extra bonus money for like a few months. That's okay. That's okay. It comes in waves. Alright, so we have that. Oh wait, I didn't complete it. I just made like a ramp for them to get stuck on, basically. Is this going down? Ever so gently. Additional, yeah, yes, exactly. Who's it? The camel? No, camel! Would you stop boinking? We have enough camels. Did I give the boy camel a contraceptive? Okay, good. Phew. We have too many camels. Alright. Anyways, back to the ramp. It's actually a little bit not doing anything. There we go. There we go. You all get out of the way. This is a construction site, folks. I need you to just jettison your way out of here if you could. That'd be fantastic today. The new prisoner. Yeah, it's only 6 buckaroos. That's in your budget. Yeah, saying, well. Yeah. It doesn't interest me though, I'll be honest. It doesn't really interest me too much. The new Prison Architect DLC, so. Camel's gonna hump, you know? Yes, Rebecca. I'll give you that one. That's a freebie. You get that one. Sally the camel has had way too... Yeah, both... See, because and Rebecca would be like best friends, probably IRL, because they'd make the same jokes at the same time and everything. They'd buy each other a lot of Cokes. Get it? Because Jinx. Alright, I'm out of here. Have a good one. I wonder if this is Planka language they're doing, or if it's an actual language. Oh wait, actually I do need people now, so stop right there. Bam. You're in like your 5th attempt at franchise mode. Franchise or challenge? I kind of want to stop my challenge mode playthrough and do franchise mode now. Is that terrible? Just because they kind of fixed it a little bit. I think that's about the right height right there. We'll say yes. Boo, you're fired. I was never hired. So wait, is it one way in, one way out? Or should we do another one coming down this way? Or is it just one? It's always just one, right? Yeah, no it is. Yes, English. Well, English only. Because if I can't understand you, then I can't talk to you. And if I can't talk to you, then you can't chat. So yeah, we like English if you can. Franchise, you suck at it? You gotta start small. You gotta start small. Everyone always, you know what else we'll put? Everyone always wants to like get a grizzly bear or like a frickin' panda out the gate. Or they buy something like that right out the gate and then they're like, oh crap, I'm out of conservation credits. And so you gotta start small. You gotta get a flamingo first, you know, or you gotta get just something a little bit small. Warhogs or dogs, African dogs. There's an entire article written about African dogs and how it broke franchise mode for a few days, basically. But yeah, start small and go bigger from there. Boop. Franchise mode is just sandbox with extra steps. No, that's not true at all. That's not even true a little bit. That's maybe true for challenge mode a little bit, but franchise mode is the online mode, and that has a lot of different stuff. Then sandbox mode has different challenges, community challenges, daily things you gotta check into to get conservation points. There's a lot that goes into the franchise mode. It actually looks like a lot of fun. Alright, so we have that, and then, oh yeah, someone else said for the bear pit to, oh, I think I started to do that. I did, and I just didn't finish it. To cover it up with, yeah, there we go. I also think that's a swell idea. You're getting better? Good, good. It was you that said that? Yeah, that's a good idea. Because even though guests aren't allowed back here, per se, they would still have it kind of closed off. No, it's okay, Murphy. It's just the neighbors. Y'all might hear my dog bark because the neighbors just got home, so he thinks that Michaela's home from work or something. When pizza's on a bagel, you can have pizza anytime. I've had the pizza, the bagel bites jingle stuck in my head for like 3 or 4 days now. It's almost annoying, but it's a catchy tune, so I mean, I can't be too upset. Pizza in the morning, pizza in the evening, pizza at supper time. When pizza's on a bagel, you can have pizza anytime. Alright, that's enough streaming for one day, I think. Anyways. Right now I have 2 bongos, a buttload of springbuck because they keep mating, and I'm putting some on the market. 8 Nile monitors, must have missed them breeding, and 2 Komodo dragons. Nice. Just make sure you're putting down enough donation bins. You can have more than one for an exhibit. You can have actually a buttload, as far as I can tell. And don't forget to check in with your buddies. Up here, if you have buddies come in, you can click on them and check in with them or whatever in franchise mode. Then you get like 20 CCs. You get 20 conservation credits or something like that whenever you do that. So, and then don't forget in the main menu, you have to check into franchise mode, and it gets you like 100 free credits every single day. So, still waiting for Sandbox to be an actual Sandbox mode. There's supposed to be an update. There's supposed to be an update this coming week for Sandbox to officially be Sandbox mode, quote unquote. We'll see what that means, but I'm hopeful. You know, I'm hopeful. You know, I was thinking, I'm sure this isn't an original idea, but something that would really help, at least the facilities, you know, for the fact that we have to have like power, you know what would really help? Power lines. You know? Like, let's say for my zoo, my idea originally for Thornton Hills, and hopefully I can actually do this if the sandbox mode or the sandbox mode's enabled, was to have this entire corner of the zoo over here be the staff area and like backstage facilities area. So it'd be like one big power like relay station basically, and like one big power or water purification. You know, if there's like an aquarium that we do, or a polar bear, something that's like penguin, something that's really water focused, it would have its own water station. But there'd be like one big main one back here for like, you know, the drinking fountains and shit like that. So that was my original idea, but then sandbox mode was challenge mode without money and challenges basically. What were we doing? Oh yeah. You getting ready for work, so I'll hit you up later. Have a good shift, bud. We'll see ya. Buttload of dono bins. I'm getting my my buddies. Good. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. Don't hire too many people. Keep your costs down. Make sure you have facilities too, like guest facilities, like burger joints, drinks. Information stand is really important. Stuff like that. Yeah. It looks like the stream's kind of stuttering a little bit. If it is, sorry if it's kind of stuttering around just a little bit. Some days OBS doesn't like Planet Zoo, other days it's like, you're fine. There we go. So it's broken a little bit to show that it's a little bit, you know, busted down. Oh, now that we can I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go. Oh, my wife texted me 20 minutes ago for for lunch. Chick-fil-A, Arby's, pizza, or Chinese? Ooh. Chinese. Chinese sounds so good. Holy heck. How is it not an actual sandbox? Because you have to worry about management still. So sandbox is not worrying about management. So the fact that we have to worry about water, power, our staff, just stuff like that, it's not sandbox. It's challenge mode with unlimited money and no challenges. So Burb ordering Chinese. I've been getting Chinese too. It sounds like I'm stoked on Chinese. Stoked on Chinese. Stoked on Chinese. There we go. So they're all different colors, so it shows a little bit of wear and tear for it. So there is that. That was good. I like that idea. I saw some power lines on the workshop earlier. I was yeah. I know Mr. Domez made some power lines, and someone in the Bro Nation made power lines as well that looked pretty good. So I think I want to improve this just a little bit here. You're already eating Chinese? Rebecca, stop being so divisive. I have to approve all of your messages. Like when you say suck and hate. YouTube's so PC that you can't say suck or hate. Which is kind of like, okay, YouTube. Okay, YouTube. All right, so let's just put like a little bit of structure to this here. Can I change the color of this? Yes. Yes. It's not that big a deal. It's more of a okay, YouTube thing rather than you saying such hateful words as suck and hate. Kappa. Oh, just despicable words. I would never, 'cause I'm YouTube. Ah, it almost worked, but didn't quite. Oh, hey, we have these just like that. No, we don't. Okay. Song's dope. Oh, we do have those right there. Okay. For real, those songs look really good. YouTube, speaking of YouTube and dope songs, as the algorithm has been on point for me lately. As far as recommendations go, it's been recommending me this, like, live disco, no, not disco, but like live spinning DJ sets of like Japanese funk and jazz from the 70s. Yeah, Japanese funk and jazz from the 1960s and 70s. And at first I was like, all right, I mean, let's see what's up, YouTube. Let's do this. And I'm just like, bruh, YouTube coming in with the hot recommendation that's totally fire. And it's been like my go-to listen for a few days now. So yeah, if y'all are just hanging out and like building and like wanting to listen to something, be sure to throw on that, you know, Japanese 1970s coffee house disco. So is there a quick way to get Zoopedia direct from an animal so it goes to that animal? Yeah. Or wait, actually no, I don't think it does it even if you click on the animal. So naturally you would think if you clicked on the Zoopedia for the animal here, it would go to that. It does. So if you're clicked on the animal, Mel, right down here there's a Zoopedia. If you click on it, it'll just jump right to it. Just jump right to it. Hey Pippi, what's up? +1 vote for bear skeletons, you monster. And do Zoopedia for that. Yeah, see, Rebecca knows what's up. But I'm just apparently ignoring her and not seeing her messages. So, all right, let me keep let me keep covering this up over here. You can't see. There, that's what. No, I don't want that. Yeah, no. Elephant. This elephant grass is like kind of my favorite as well for quick covering up of areas. Boom. Can't see spit. Welcome. Feels flab man. Feels bad man. Feels flabby man. Feels crabby man. Okay, so we have that. That was a good idea. Thank you again, Furious, for that idea. What else? What else? I have contemplated thinking that something should go up in here, like that the zoo would have like a marketing like flag up here or something like that. But I don't know. Actually, that's I even mention it because I'm not going to put anything in. Let's go down here. I'm trying to remember if anyone mentioned anything else, but over here I did kind of want to dress some of this stuff up because this backstage road is getting very long. And oh, hey, we can get this. Doesn't have a lot going on with it yet. Not that it really needs to have a lot going on with it. It is literally just a road, and it's the perimeter of the zoo. We can move those trees that are in the middle of the road. That's okay to do. So yeah, let's dress up this area over here. What do we? I don't really actually think we need to have a path connecting that way like that. So we're gonna switch that up. Smooth this out if we can. Ooh. Whoop. Nailed it. Is there a way to remove the guest spawns that are in the sandbox entrance? No, you can only move the entrance, the ticket entrance. Yeah, you can. Yeah, exactly. You can add more, but you can't remove the original ones. So I haven't had a problem with that though. The guests don't like randomly spawn there, at least to my knowledge. So. Okay, so now we can cover this up here with some foliage. You can't seem to remove the ticket entrance anymore. Oh no! Did they switch that with the franchise mode thing? Franchise mode got an update where you... Originally in franchise mode you could remove the entrance and all that fun stuff like you could do in sandbox, and they switched it and it affected sandbox mode as well. So maybe that affected as well. I'm gonna go check on that in like 2 seconds here because I'm kind of interested as now. We need more dead trees. More dead trees or I riot. Oh, someone's blowing their leaves. Little ridge line of bushes here. Not to start anything because we're all here for zoo time with Drew, but is Kappa gonna mess with you at all? Nope, because my content isn't aimed at children. They've already stated, the FTC has already come out and said that video games, just because you play a video game doesn't mean that you're automatically, like that it's automatically like in a kid's whatever you want to say. So nope, totally fine. They're not trying to go after just like all YouTube accounts that might have a gray area or anything like that. That's not their intent at all because that'd be dumb. And they know it. They're just trying to find the bad players. That's really it. So yeah, if you do toy reviews or you play like, you know, Minecraft and it's meant to like appeal directly to 12 and 11-year-olds, or if you're like Jake Paul or Logan Paul, that's what they're trying to get at. Is just they're trying to get like the bad actors from not profiting off of small children anymore. Television went through this in the 80s and 90s with kids programming. Kids programming was marketed heavily for different advertisers and stuff, and the FTC had to step in and make sure that they weren't getting manipulated because, you know, kids are so easily manipulated. So that's really all they're trying to do. So I know I went in a big rant there and half that wasn't even asked, but I just know it's been a hot button topic for some people. So which barriers did you say curved? Oh, you can see which ones curve. I'm not sure what on the top of my head, but if you click on Mel, they'll come up. Then the null ones do, you can see it here, straight or curve. If you click it, it'll come up. So see, if it doesn't come up with the straight or curve, then it doesn't do it there. You had strip clubs and alcohol stores to all your zoos. Yeah, just to make sure, right? Yeah, definitely. See, it's nice. I'm safe because I can even back up my analytics that kids don't watch my my content. I got the analytics to back it up. Like, see, no kids find me interesting at all. My main age demographic is 18 to like 30-year-olds basically. So I think if we add something like right here, it'd be kind of nice, kind of nice. Just don't really know what. Did I add a bear statue over here yet? I did. Okay, so we already did that. Dang. That was my other idea. Because someone mentioned that before in the comments, I'm pretty sure. Maybe we won't add anything. It's not always necessary. Nah. This is the older part of the zoo. They wouldn't really do anything like that, so that's fine. Moving on! Sounds like the kids' fault for being so manipulative. Blame the children. Yes. How dare you have fragile, molding minds, children. I need to add a fence over here. How dare ye, dare ye. Dang it. Let me click on the hole. Got him. Just add more animal statues. You like the wolf? No, that wouldn't make any sense, Rebecca. Gosh. Actually, yeah, what zoos do that all the time, where they just add random animal statues and stuff like that. Paul's here. I'm too cool to be online on time. Yes, there it is. You tend to just use brick barriers for everything and change it. Yeah, I think I do null barriers automatically and then kind of just change it around. So, just imagine a really upscale panda burlesque show and use the Asian theme to really cater all your zoo guys. Yeah, wee. The second half, yeah, it's the second half of the master plan for the zoo. Exactly. Exactly. Do we even have this kind of deer in the... We don't even have this kind of deer in the game, do we? So... Donde? See, I'm wondering, and those of you that played Planet Coaster and followed it from its birth till real death, kinda, I'm wondering if we're going to be getting some free update, or a big free update for Planet Zoo that's going to include some of like the missing animals that they couldn't put in and stuff like that. Wondering if we're going to be getting something like that. Now they did that for... Oh, come on! My X button broke. Now they did that for Planet Coaster because Planet Coaster was incomplete when it released, if I'm just being honest with you. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see about that. So I might have to restart the game. Just had red panda statues everywhere. Exactly. Exactly. Oh. Most you could check all animals except the dang peafowls. Penguin. Yeah, we need a lot of stuff. No, I joined at the end. Hey, Sarah, what's up? How you doing? Welcome in, Sarah. Yeah, X button glitch, I know. Let's see if it's really the X button glitch. No, see, now it's working. It's weird. It does it for some things. Now it's working. Nope, no, it's not. So it does it for, like, multi-selecting objects. Yeah, that's totally what it is. Interesting. Someone go tell Frontier. So if I could hit X, but I can't hit X again. Now, however, if I were to take these Mamma Jammas, put them in a group, take that group, edit it, X, yeah, and it works like that when I put them into a group. So it's only not really working, at least for me, when stuff is out of a group and I hit X and I try and move them. So there you go. There you go. Polar bears, yeah, I love polar. Reindeer for Christmas would be a good idea. All right, let's put a concrete slab under this. That is really what we need to do. We need to put the concrete slab into this. You're in my zoo right now? I am! Hello! Look at your zoo! You have a lot of peafowls. You have so many peafowls. It is astounding. I've never been to a zoo with more peafowls in it in my life. There we go. There we go. What about the golden snub-nosed monkey? What's the golden snub-nosed monkey? It sounds snobby. Reindeer, penguins, polar bears, what else? Seals? Yeah, I could see that. What animal are we going to be doing next? We're going to be doing a grizzly bear. We're going to be doing grizzly bear. I don't know if we'll get to it today. Today is really just kind of going through the zoo and just kind of adding in little details that I've missed along the way. We might start on the grizzly habitat, but I can't promise anything. Can't promise, can't promise. Otters would be cool. Yeah, just kind of a North American update would be good, I think. Australia needs some representation though. As well as, like, you know, New Zealand and all them. Like, they're highly underrepresented. So this area looks pretty. Oh no, you know what, there was one area I need to mess with over here. No power. I'll fix that. I fix this. Oh. You love grizzly? I do too. Grizzly bears are probably one of my favorite animals that we have in the game right now. Did you all participate in the grizzly bear franchise mode challenge and get your what does he get? Like a costume, right? You get a special costume? A hair period track bear. Absolutely. So let's move this. We're gonna move this over here actually. This is literally the staff room. So we can just have this like this. And then have a backstage path connect. I don't know what we're yelling about. See, now we're just gonna do Anchorman quotes all day, because it's 2000 and whenever that movie came out. Got him. That'll be because you removed the power earlier? Yes, I did. And I meant to replace it with the thing I just did. Wait, we were going to check on something else that you mentioned. Yes. Oh, the entrance. No, yeah, I can't delete that. Yep. Anyways, got to cover that up. Okay. That we have that. I don't need these. I used to have these random roads kind of connecting out because I needed mechanics to get back to the bless you llama or ostrich. Yeah, because I needed the mechanics to get back to the power. Now we don't really need that. What the heck is this doing out here? Whoop. 15%. No, it's 95% of the time it works. Every time. That doesn't make sense. Nice grungy door here. Got a nice grungy door, yeah. This is the first time live I've ever watched, not counting the last 2 seconds of the video. Nice, well, welcome. Welcome. I will say that anyone that has not seen me live before, I normally have a camera, but if you missed the beginning of the stream, I wrenched my back last night while sleeping somehow. So, no camera today. But yeah, normally I would probably have like a camera going and stuff like that, so. I know some people are really, you know, that's really important for them to know and stuff like that. What am I doing? Excuse me. But yeah, thanks so much for everyone hanging out. I appreciate it. I hope everyone's having a great Saturday there. Anyone have some fun Saturday plans? Or are we just kind of lounging around the house, just kind of hanging around like a bunch of dorks? We're all a bunch of dorks now, so. Is that the same height? Yes, okay, it's fine. Just chilling today. Hardcore lounge. Good. Good. I like to hear that. See, they say it's lazy Saturday. I think it's just, or Sunday. I think it's lazy weekend. Really? There we go. Shipping receiving window. You know, it should just be designated. You should just designate being lazy to one day. That seems counterintuitive. You could be lazy other days too if you wanted to. Why does Sunday get to have all the fun? I'm not saying you should be totally counterproductive and like a blob. If you want to be lazy on other days, you be lazy on other days. I'm like the Oprah of being lazy. You think I can make Oprah money by being the Oprah of lazy? I can make lazy Oprah money. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. How do you keep animals alive? I keep animals alive by ticking the box that says don't die. Normally. I disabled that now though because I wanted them not to die. But you gotta make sure you feed them. You know, so let's go over to our camels here. So here's our camel, and you gotta make sure that everything's looking good for them. Now to make sure that this is going good, you gotta go to their habitat. We're gonna go to our filter, species, and we'll come down here and there's our camel, Bactrian camel. So these are all the things that the camel likes. So you gotta make sure that you get the camel its food and water, so get a trough out there. So you gotta put a trough. And it likes to drink out of the, out here. Oh look, it's pooping. It means it's happy. So here's your basic needs for it. And then everything after that is pretty much, you know, enrichment for it, which makes it happier. So overall, just make sure that you're making sure it's fed. You get it some food enrichment items. Now this is all in sandbox mode. Now you can only do all like the sandbox mode stuff, like I mentioned in sandbox mode. Franchise mode, challenge mode, you cannot turn off animal deaths. So you didn't know you could turn off? Yeah. So if you're in sandbox mode and you just want to build, then you know, there you go. Next week, holidays are going to be crazy. Starting up your engines. Yeah, we are busy tomorrow. We actually have plans tomorrow for the holiday at Michaela's mom's place, and the next weekend I'm sure something. Is next weekend Thanksgiving or is this week? Isn't tomorrow Thanksgiving? I don't even know when holidays are anymore. Zamel Camel has 2 humps. Yes. Oh, I did not know that you could turn. Yeah, apparently these camels like a workshop climbing frame or blueprint. Yeah, I think that's because I just put it in habitat. So there you go. It's Thursday. Oh, there you go. Okay. Let's cover this up back here. I'm pretty sure that my wife is on the way home with some Chinese food right now, but that doesn't mean that the stream is going to end when she gets here with it. I might take like the quickest of breaks to go snarf it down. But just a heads up. Oh, this is going to be schnitty with the pain. I hate it already. Hold on. Let's try this one more time. Let's make this easier on ourselves. What game mode do I like the best? It's Sandbox. Definitely Sandbox. I like to be able to just kind of build what I would like to for the most part. I still enjoy doing the other modes as well sometimes, but Sandbox is where I do the most. If you haven't already, my Thornton Hills Zoo, this zoo that we're doing here, is all in Sandbox mode, so that's kind of like my main shtick there. And whenever I do habitat builds, those are always in Sandbox mode as well. Alright, let's try this again now. Fighting due to overcrowding. Oh, heck! Stop it! Stop it! Stop fighting! Who is it? Oh, it's these guys. Hey! Hey! You gotta go. You gotta get out of here, bud. Releasing you out into the wild. Yay. Okay, hey, dude, no more borking. No more porking, okay? There's enough of you. We don't need any more mini piers. You think that's what they're called? A mini tapir is a mini pier? Probably not. What about you? Are you old now and want to go fight your dad? No, because you're a girl. Okay. I haven't played a franchise since the beta. Do I watch my own videos? I kinda do when I'm editing and stuff like that. But I don't watch them. I probably should because I miss some stuff when I'm editing, but I'll say sometimes, but not all the time. But again, I probably should. Because people have commented and were like, hey, you forgot to put like concept art footage when you said you were going to or whatever. So that kind of stuff kind of sucks, but yeah. The Okapi got bigger. Okay, are y'all gonna fight now? Yep. Okay, so you need to get the fuck out. Cool. To be blunt. And Mr. Dude or Mrs. Dude. That's the problem with the Okapi is that they like their privacy so much that they're kind of hard to find sometimes. Hello. Are you guys loving or fighting? Oh, you already are. We already chopped your ding-a-ling dong-dong. Cool. Flamingo matured. We doing okay over here? Yeah, flamingo, like, the flamingo are nuts. They can have like hold on. They can have something like 60 in their flock, I remember reading. No, I'm sorry, 500. They can have they can have upwards of 500 in their flock and they live till 60 years old. That just blows my mind for whatever reason. If we ever get up to 500 flamingos in this habitat right here, oof. All right, so let's keep going down. And I keep putting this little section off over here. Hey, thanks for the likes on Twitter and stuff like that, everyone. I appreciate it. I appreciate you and your fingers hitting the heart button on Twitter. It helps out immensely. Nope, I didn't want that there. Heading to pick up food now. Chinese is coming to me. God, that's so great. Just love that. Hey, honey, do you want Chinese food? Yes. Okay, going to get it now. Oh, fuck. That's just like the greatest thing ever said. Do one more for no. What habitat are you most proud of in any of your zoos, counting the beta? That's a good question. Amazing wife, yes. Your wife is amazing. She is. She is. It's part of the reason why I decided to marry her. Because I was like, hey, you're pretty cool. And she was like, you're pretty cool too. My favorite build that I've done, I think it would probably it'd be the lion habitat, the one-off lion habitat that I did. It'd be between that and the recreation of the Brookfield Zoo's Tropic House. Well, slight recreation of it. It was more of an inspiration than a recreation. So probably between those two. If you haven't seen the lion habitat that I'm talking about, there is a speed build video of it and all that fun stuff. You can go take a look at it too, because Planet Zoo is awesome and takes like 2 seconds to load for the most part. Can you have your wife say hi? When she gets home, I'll see if she wants to. She's going to be here for... what time is it? She should be here for a little bit. She's in between her morning and evening shift. Actually, we're going to put up a concrete wall. We're going to go full-on industrial backstage here. Ooh, actually, this is still part of the older part of the zoo. We can do the brick wall. Do a brick wall. Put it back just a little bit. Give it a little bit of room for some foliage. You did a Coliseum. No. Not me. That wasn't me. It was probably Rudy or DeLady if it was a dome. They love doing domes and stuff like that. We're gonna eventually do that as well. Absolutely. And then over here we'll do like a retaining wall. Oh, Domez gave me a really good idea for retaining walls. He's been using the fencing for retaining walls, and that's a super, super good idea. So you get these nice little curves in your fencing without butchering your sanity. Let's go a little bit more. Oh my god, I can. Right there. So I reckon you can take it. Wait, did that funk with the... No. Kind of do that, and then we can take kind of push it in a little bit. Push it in. Nope, it just contours to the... She's a brick wall. Oh, that's you making that noise. I never knew what that whoosh noise was. And it's him taking out his tape measure. For fuck's sake. I never knew what that noise was. It drove me insane. I kind of like the curviness to this. I'm gonna fix different parts of it as we go. Well, what the fuck? How do you shrink the wall without moving the slider? If you select a wall piece, what slider? What are you talking about, slider? Wait, snap? Anyways, right here. You can do that with it. You can, oh, the length. You can, if you select the end of a piece. Oh, I'm sorry, plus minus. So plus, minus keys. Sorry, I just understood what you're saying. Yeah, it's a lot better than going over here and doing the slider. If I delete one animal in the game, which would it be? And I'm going to add to that and say, which would I replace it with? So if I had to delete one animal in the game, I would delete the I would delete. Yeah, I would delete the Indian rhinoceros and replace it with the African rhinoceros. There. Because I just think it's a weird choice to do the Indian rhinoceros over the African rhinoceros, and that's just my own thing, because I like the Indian rhinoceros a lot more. Personally. This isn't a retaining wall anymore, by the way. So just, if someone is like actually knows how a retaining wall works and stuff, and you're just like, that's not a, yeah, I know. I changed my mind. It's just a wall. Oh fuck. The pygmy hippo is a bit silly in your honest opinion. I also personally am not like super sold on that one. I do like the baby version of the pygmy hippo though. The baby pygmy hippos are kind of adorable, if I'm being honest. They're a little bit heckin' adorable. Uh-oh. 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 They got it. Okay, let's stop that right there. They should add the Sumatran Rhinoceros. Is that like your typical African rhinoceros? I guess you'd call it. Or is it literally called an African rhinoceros? In comparison to Planet Coaster, I'm just like way out of my element when it comes to like knowing about animals and stuff like that. Like Planet Coaster, someone would come in and be like, "What do you build?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm building a classic Aero, 70s mega looping coaster based off this reference here and this park and all this fun stuff. And this is the classic flat ride that fits in with the era and stuff." Here, I'm just like, what kind of rhino is that? Is that like an African rhino or? I'm so out of my element. But it's fine. It's I like it because I get to learn about, again, these amazing creatures. Because I have an interest in all of it, I just was more exposed to like theme parks and stuff, whether it be games or like zoo or theme parks and stuff like that, rather than zoos. Like I went to zoos as a kid, just not nearly as much as theme parks. A lot of that was my own doing too, because I've never had a choice to go anywhere. They, like, my parents would sometimes just be like, during the summer, be like, "All right, what do you want to do today? We have the day free. We can go somewhere. What do you want to do?" I'd always be like, "Great America. I'm gonna go to Six Flags," which was the closest park to us at the time, and so yeah. Only kind of when I got older and was in school, like in middle school and high school, we went to some zoos, like the Milwaukee County Zoo, Brookfield Zoo, and the Madison Zoo. It's not called the Madison Zoo though, it's called something else. It's like, oh, the Henry Villas. I think it's called the Henry Villas Zoo. Anyways. Baby cheetahs are freaking adorable with their chirps. The main African ones are the black rhino and the white rhino. Sumatran rhinos from Southeast Asia and is super endangered. Oh, interesting. Okay. Why did it block you, Sarah, from saying that? The African rhinos are the white rhino and yeah. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Oh, that makes sense. Sumatra. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh my God, there's so many things are expecting offsprings. Hold on. Hold the phone. We need to address this situation. We have a situation. We have a situation on our hands. All the boys. All the boys. You're getting put on the pill. We're about to have a calamity on our hands here. I mean, it's looking better. It's like looking, filled out and stuff with all the birds in there, but I think like 4 or 5 flamingos just got pregnant. So yeah, no. That's not gonna go over too hot. Actually, I need to get everything contraceptive, because if they have a male or a female or whatever, then they're gonna still inbreed. Everybody on the contraceptive, getting on the pill. Go. No more babies for the mingos. No more babies for the flamingos. Baby. No. Is there a no contraceptive all button that I just missed out totally on? Let's make sure I have them all here. I can't wait till I hope we get stuff like whooping cranes and stuff like that. Well, they all had their babies. Yeah, everyone had the babies. There we go. Jeez and jeez and jeez. There's also Javan Rhino, which is even more super endangered. That's sad. Michaela's home. Use the zoo menu with all your animals. Easier to put them all on the pill at the same time. Oh, heck. Oh, you can! Look at that stuff! Well, as I said it, I should have looked at my chat. Thank you. Thank you. Now I can double check now. See, I would have missed him. Nice. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have that. We have that. Let's put down some stuff here. Oops. 1 minute. Okay. All right, I'm gonna finish up this quick line right here, this quick row, and then I'm gonna do like a little break to eat. Hello, hi Tyler. An old man's front yard, that'd be fun. You can even put the babies on contraception in the animal menu, which you... I noticed that. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of heckin' interesting. Hi, Murphy. What you doing there, buddy? I put these on the wrong side of the fence. Yeah, I know. I see, honey. I see. Yeah, hi. Stop licking me. Stop licking me. I can put it on both. Okay. How am I back feeling? Still not great. Still not the greatest. Thanks for asking though. I'm in a weird like half hunched over position right now. Serious injury. Why? Why are you fighting? That's your daughter. Stop being a dick. See, I hate that they fight though, because you're supposed to build a pack. Unless that's normal for them to do. Because I mean, they're fine. It's social goodness. And I started with just two, you know, just the male and the female. And then they had these two girls, but now the women are fighting. Can't you turn off fighting? Yeah, you can, but I didn't want to do that because I kind of wanted to leave that. But I might turn it off just so that that's not a thing. Yeah, I didn't want to do that, but if they're gonna do it, then no, because that's against the pack building. All right, so I'm gonna take a lunch break, but I'm not gonna close down the stream. Wait, what? Something escaped. What the heck? What escaped? How'd the camel escape? Camel, what the heck are you doing out of your Why did you get out? You've been in the zoo. You can't get out. Why is the camel out even though it can't get out? Camel, get back in the damn... Get in there. How did it get out? What the heck? Okay, cool. Anyways, gonna take a quick break. Not gonna shut the stream down. What the heck? So yeah, I'm just gonna go eat a quick lunch and I'll be right back. So it won't take long at all. So be right back. Time. Man, how was that? I ate pretty quick, I feel like. All right, let's catch back up with what y'all have been up to since I were gone. Oh, I forgot to pause the game. It's okay. Frederick. Sure, why not, Frederick? Held an illegal camel race at this zoo and is currently dealing with the loser. That's right. That's right. Let's see here. I spent a long time writing it because I'm not leaving the live though. Okay, cool, good. But anyways, yay! Finally, I know it was forever. But anyways, let's go ahead and do some more building in the zoo for like another hour or two there. I shouldn't even put a time limit on it, just until we're done. All right, so we moved our way this way, and we were over here. Let's just add in some more foliage and stuff over this way. That's gonna be a lot of today. It's foliage. It's a lot of this game. Foliage. That's fine. I enjoy foliage. What kind of trees am I doing over here already? I'm just pretty much doing a big mixture of North American, European, and like. There we go. All right, so we'll just line the road here with a few trees, kind of. I mean, it's a backstage road, so you don't have to like fully block the view or anything like that, right? But I'll still just do a little bit here. Local Illinois man chokes on Chinese food after inhaling his lunch to get back to live stream. Yeah, had to get back to, I don't know what the view count is, but I'll see, it's normally like 20 viewers or 10 viewers. There it is. Oh. Oh, I am so full now. Holy cow. Holy cow. But I have dinner for tonight, though. I'm stoked on that. Always love getting the leftovers. Let's put a tree here. Make sure the dad and daughter don't have babies together because they can. Oh, for the animals? Yeah, I know. I don't even know how you would stop that, though. You can put them on contraceptives, but you can't really tell the animals who to bork. I guess is the best way to put it. But I put a lot of them on contraceptives because I don't really want a lot of them to have babies anymore. So we should be okay in that aspect. Should be. Let's pull out some of Mr. Gomez's backstage stuff here. What the? There we go, okay. Make sure you keep the lingerie stores guests only. Don't let your animals buy stuff. Well, what if the camels feel like looking really sexy? And it just is like, my humps, my humps, my humps, my humps. My lovely camel humps. Check them out. Only issue with that is how do we get vehicles down there? I could probably have this roadway connect through here. Would you miss? I built an entire zoo and uploaded it on the workshop. Just kidding. Not much. Not much at all. Pretty much just this. Just make sure it's not lovely daughter humps or don't. Who am I to judge? I give that a certified yikes. That's a certifiable yikes moment. There's where the garbage trucks and stuff will come in. Not gonna be that smooth, but it doesn't really have to be, so it's okay. Oh, that's done. What's next? The Planet Coaster soundtrack. Oh my goodness. How exciting is that? How exciting is the Planet Coaster soundtrack? Right there. That's the ticket right there. It is. All right. So there that goes. That works. Now I could add some more stuff down here for sure, but we're not going to right now. We're not going to right now. We're gonna keep moving on and see what else we can kind of add on to. I'm getting a little bit ADHD here. Oh, did I ever move this back? I don't think I did. Shoot, I just did all that and I just remembered there was a comment that I agreed with that we should move this back here. You know what we'll do instead? We'll keep this barrier going across and just block the view of it. That's what we're gonna do. There. I like that. You can still see it, obviously. The whole point isn't to make it disappear or anything. It's just to draw your attention away from it. So that's the main thing. Oh, hi, Murphy. You gonna take a nap? You got your bone? Yeah. Actually, dang it. That's the cheap, easy way to do it. No, fuck it. I'll actually do it. I won't be lazy. So, to do it, I'm going to need to move the path back a little bit. This is gonna be fun. It won't be as bad as I'm making it out to be. That's okay. I'll still hold on. I'll still move it back. I'm just gonna need to move the keeper hut. The keeper hut is right here. We're gonna probably just have to move it a different way to have it kind of work how I want it to. Because I don't want to like really rotate the building around at all. We just want to move it straight on back. Well, okay. Boom. I'm just gonna get the terrain down here, and it should thought I had something underneath here. Yep, I do. There we go. Oh, I goofed it up. Okay, I think that should be better now. Yep. Perfect. So that... You just switch around this. First connect up the path so you can see where it's at. There we go. Okay, so that is fixed up. Good to go. Good-ish to go. And that should look a lot better now from the... Yeah, we can just put in some more... Oh, I forgot about these. Heck. Alright, can I place these on there, or do they have to be a regular path? Oh, it can. Nice. Okay, and finally just some more nature. I would use some bigger, taller ones. I'll use like the crabberry tree. I love using the, I think it's called the crabberry tree. Nope. Whenever I find it next, I'm going to add it to my favorites, though, because I do use a lot for bushes. Corkwood tree? No, but I do use that one for bushes a lot. At least one of the, yeah, this one I use it for a bush a lot, just to get down into the ground. Like so, kind of makes, again, for a nice, a little bit taller, darker green bush. Here they are, custard apple. That's what it's called, custard apple tree. Is my chat broken? Oh, it hasn't updated forever. Have you all been chatting? Oh my god. My chat might be dead. Let me reset chat. Thanks for messaging me, Mel. There it goes. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. Why did it not update forever? Hello. Holy heck. Thanks for texting me, Mel. I was kind of wondering. I was like, all right, so no one's talking anymore. That's fine. I've streamed to no one talking before. I'm a pro. Oh my god. Here we go. I subscribe because I'm new. Hello. Well, yes, Tyler, you are new. Yes. You have a day off on Monday. Yay. Can I not see chat? No, I couldn't. Looks nice. Thank you. Appreciate you. Palsy, while you're here, do distract your tutorials. They've been awesome. Yes, aren't they? Yes. When are you planning on finishing the live stream? Probably like another hour or two, something like that. Just a little bit more. I do suck. That's true. I did. That's bad. Bye, back soon. Okay. Hey, Benjamin. How's it going? How's it going? Paulsley is leading a rebellion. Yes. There we go. What'd Pippi do? Pippi's okay. My builds are awesome. Thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Everyone, everyone wants Chinese food now? There we go. Okay, I think I finally caught back up. I finally caught up. Chat has stopped moving. I am here. Yes, I don't normally just ignore people in chat. So if that happens again, I am not ignoring you. I am definitely not ignoring you. So, let's keep going now. But yes, thanks everyone for hanging out. I appreciate you hanging out, and thanks for the kind words about my builds and all that fun stuff. It is a heck of a fun time to do it, to build them and all that fun stuff. Pippi sucks? No, Pippi doesn't suck. We like Pippi. We like Pippi. Okay, add me as a scene friend while I have space. Oh, yes. I added you as a friend, but let's be friends, Paulsley, so that we can do this. You said that to Ben. Oh my gosh, I am so confused. Okay. Okay, Paulsley. Okay, Paul, be my friend. All right. Anyway, so we're gonna pad just another tree or two here, not bamboo, because that doesn't actually a try. Oh, that's not the Douglas fir that I want. Cheers, Paulsley. Good. Now we can actually do a collaboration together. Try that link that I sent you earlier in our DM, in the DM. Paulsley, let me know if that works. If not, I need to add you as a... Ooh, actually, let me do that right now while I have while I'm thinking about it. Let me add you as a contributor right now, and then you can jump in and start doing the dang thing. Yeah, fill my hole, please. Everyone's different in their own way. Yeah, sarcasm and all that fun stuff on the internet is hard to pick up on sometimes. You have to know the person. Everybody's good. Absolutely, 100%. All right, so I added you as a contributor. Let's see, where are you? Leslie! Leslie! Okay, I added you. You should have it in your workshop and stuff like that. Should be good to go, Paisley. Cool. How are we looking here? Ooh, that's covered up pretty nicely. Covered up pretty nicely. The next thing I will do is probably add some vines and stuff to the actual building to make it look a little bit more run down there, so. I think Drew's tree work is the best. Thank you, I appreciate that. I learned a lot of my stuff from Mr. Mike Sheets. He is a fantastic foliage dude. I don't know how else to put it. He's really good at foliage, and he made a few tutorials, and they really helped out a lot. I like using these more than I like using the actual vines in game. The vines in game are, like, they work okay, but they are very stringy. So I like to use the, what is this? The crowberry bush as my vines instead. Girl, you two are... Huh? Okay. There's no such thing as being better than anyone else in this game, and to compare like that is kind of a dick move to do, to be honest. And to come out and chat, in a public chat, and say, hey, you suck, basically, like that, is kind of a dick move to do too, in my opinion. So maybe, nah. Like, what the fuck? It's not a competition. Alright. Benjamin, it's been fun, my friend. I appreciate the support, but no. Just no. I don't know what's going on with that whole thing. Maybe I missed something, but what the hell? Were you guys just joking around or something? I don't know. Whatever, you guys deal with it. I'm gonna play some heckin' trees down, you drama starters. You friggin' drama starters. Let's see here. Oh my god, that's ginormous. It's okay, you're apparently a bad builder. Well, I mean, I could have told you that. Dang it, I keep picking the wrong one. I'm a bad builder too, Paisley, so you're in good company. You're in the bad builder club. It's a good club to be in. Is that? Oh, that's right. I needed to redo this. Kablam. Street Fox Coffee. Well, I only play this game for the satisfaction of other people, so I only build things to get accreditation from complete strangers on the internet to make sure that my builds are okay for them. I don't do it for my own satisfaction. That'd be crazy. Sure, well, the only issue I always have with these kind of things is... Hold on one sec. That you can't lower it too much and get it attached to the path. And that stinks. Because it makes, yeah. I want it to go lower so I can make the building lower overall. You're just stating your opinion? That's cool. There, I just stated my opinion. No one cares. It's a shitty opinion. Boom. And third strikes the charm. Alright, well that was fun. That enjoyable individual can go watch all the better the Better Planet Zoo players. There you go. That's how we solved that. Pretty easy, right? If all you're gonna do is complain, then get the fuck out! I had to message Paulsley and ask him. I thought that there was like a joke that I was not in on between the two of them. I've never seen that before in my life, where just some random internet dude comes up and, hey, your stuff sucks. Oh. Alright. It's just a thing to do. I remember my first beer. So it's still gonna be ginormous any way I do it. Well, then... Street Fox Coffee. We can lower this roof a little bit. Oh, I can't. Dang. I'm having like a design crisis right now. It's a design crisis. I must be getting big. I have a lot of people like that now. Yeah, no, I get at least 2 or 3. That I can always expect at least 2 or 3 downvotes. Pretty on time too, like pretty lined up right when I upload my videos, which means that they must have my bell notification on just to downvote it, which is fine because that's engagement on my videos. That's fantastic. That makes YouTube like my videos. John D does good work, great work. But if you have to hear him do a stream suffering from severe back pain, it's okay. It's not affecting me too bad. It's not like this is hard work or anything, you know? That's not too bad. Can't really complain. I'm leaving this alone for right now because it's driving me bonkers. It's driving me bonkers. All right, so across from here, I still don't really have, I don't really have a full idea of what to do. Why did I kick him? Because he was annoying me. He was annoying me and bringing unnecessary drama in my chat, so I didn't want it around anymore, so get out. Thanks for watching the videos, thanks for liking my builds, now get out and stop being annoying. I don't put up with that shit. Just to put it frank, if someone's annoying, they're annoying. You were getting warmed up? Yeah, well, I didn't need my chat to become the backyard or the schoolyard who's got a bigger dick yard. to be honest with you. All right. Geekism, me, Pausley, all of you guys are telling me cheers. Thank you. That's usually, yeah, that's how it goes. Thanks, thank you, Mr. Jonty there. Yeah, he likes to spread the, I'll call it wealth around a little bit there, right? Definitely, he shouted me out a few times between Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo and stuff like that, and Pausley as well. Always appreciated. Let's maybe work on this. I don't really have a full idea for this, but maybe we can put something together here. Am I on the wrong station? So, yep. I'm gonna find it elsewhere and carry on. Oh god. Oh shoot. Did not end it. Nope. Just put a pause on my end. Again, I don't care what goes on outside of my my live stream, but right when it started affecting my live stream and the people in it, I was like, nah, that's okay. That's okay. More along lines of with no clothes on, just for fun. Yes, that'll show them. That'll do it. Anyways, no, not anyways. Let's keep talking about you being naked on the front porch. You take a look at making little boats with art pieces. I'm not sure if it's possible. Yeah, I did. It's not in scale. No, we don't have a small enough art piece yet, unfortunately. Not that that I noticed, at least. Actually, no, it's not gonna work that way. We did it in Planet Coaster. No, we made them with TMTK pieces in Planet Coaster. I forgot. So yeah, we weren't able to do it in Planet Coaster either. They had to be modeled in game. Zoo is looking great. Cheers. Pretty bummed we only have 2 cute. I know. That's really like a bummer, to be honest with you. Like, we don't even have like a wood one. So we have canoes. She wants, or I shouldn't say she. They want to have like a an RC, like one that you control from the docks and you can kind of like out here kind of thing. Yeah, they want little remote control boats. So you're heading out, Sarah. Gonna play Planet Zoo yourself. Nice. Enjoy your build. Thanks so much for hanging out, Sarah. I appreciate it as always. And yeah, have fun playing some Planet Zoo. That's really tall. Let's shrink that mamma jamma down just a little bit. Just a little bit better. Can you play Planet Zoo on computer? Yeah, that's all you can play it on right now. You can only play it on PC. No Mac, no console. Only PC. So you can get it on the Steam Workshop. I think it's something like 45 US dollars. Not sure any other conversions or anything. you doing, Murph? Hi, buddy. How am I gonna see? Yeah. Is this music the game's background music, or is it like some other music that you are playing for fun? This is a Planet Coaster soundtrack. This is the Planet Coaster soundtrack. So originally we listened through the Planet Zoo soundtrack, and now I have a playlist with the Planet Coaster soundtrack as well. So yeah, if you all didn't play Planet Coaster, this is its soundtrack, which I personally, and I know a lot of people don't agree with this, but I like Planet Coaster soundtrack better. I think it's far in between better. I mute Planet Zoo soundtrack often. Planet Coaster, I didn't really do that. You live in London, so I don't know, but I'll try soon. Nice, nice. London, UK, or London, Canada? I'm assuming UK, but you can never be too sure these days. We'll add, because it's a boat dock, we'll probably need to add in some places like... oh, you know what? We'll add the dry stone. Planet Coaster soundtrack always put me to sleep while building. That's fair. It's a very soothing soundtrack. Excuse me, starting to get the hiccups. Face palm. Oh no, oh god. Have fun, Paulsley. Gee. There he goes. There he goes. That does make sense. Let's see. There it is. Ooh, that doesn't quite work. Nah, I won't get complicated with it. No need. UK, okay, nice. Nice. Now I do know that if you're interested, Planet Coaster is going to be coming to consoles next year. So Planet Coaster is the game that came out just before this game. And it focuses on, you know, kind of what it sounds like, the theme park building and stuff. Very similar in style and everything like that. Just doesn't look as good or have animals in it. But yeah, I do know that. Planet Coaster is going to be releasing on console next year, so there is that. On chasing down haters. I've watched that one sort of like in meetings dealing with hecklers. Oops, I forgot the other parts. In my opinion, the best way to deal with them is to let it go. But that's just me. I'm not a fiery, overzealous redhead from the UK. You know, all those things combined just are the perfect storm for Mr. Paulsley over there. Hey, Kitten, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Are you building some zoos today? Are you building your zoo today, or some habitats? Oh, shoot. I mean, I mentioned it in Paulsley and I's collaboration first episode today, that I'm surprised he hasn't made a tutorial on turning the computer on, which to play Planet Zoo, or, you know, double clicking on the Planet Zoo icon to launch the application. He has some great tutorials though. I could never think of half the stuff that he does, just cause, and it's funny because it's like the stuff that he does is stuff that most of us, I guess you'd say seasoned builders for the Planet series, do all the time, but we just never think of it. He's just able to actually put it into something sensible-ish for us all to decipher, or for everyone, the new people to decipher there. I liked the title you did one day for it, Paulsley, where it was like, here's how I build, kind of ish, or something like that, or here's what's going through my head, somewhat, kind of, a little bit. Has anyone done a really jungle intensive river boat ride in Planet Zoo yet? Like the areas that fuck. Sorry, excuse me. Stan was doing the Jungle Cruise a little bit. He started to do the Jungle Cruise, I believe, so... Kendi, hello. This is all for review. Why? Drew, you joke, but I love how he addresses us stupid folk. Well, that's where it is, right? Like, it's okay. Tyler, sounds good. It's well, I totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, just the fact that he lays that stuff out for everyone. You know, my brain doesn't work that way. You know, so I'm glad that he was able to get all those out for everyone, to help everyone out. That was the ultimate moment right there. Jeez, man. I can talk. You can do. I like boat stations. I like boat stations too. Boats are really cool. I like boats. I like turtles. Oh, this is gonna be fun. DS is fun always. Here we go. Go. I think I've asked this already, but I'm just gonna probably ask it every other hour or something like that. But what are we building? What are y'all building in Planet Zoo while you're hanging out? Because I know the majority of you, and I'm looking at you, person in particular, that you are playing Planet Zoo while watching this stream at the same time. I can just see it now. But what are we building? Are you building just a habitat? Do you have a whole zoo that you're building right now? Are you releasing every single animal into the same pen to see what happens? What are you building? I think I had the animatronics for big anacondas in the jungle, right? Yes. Yep, they had that, hippos, and crocodiles from the adventure pack. Paulsley, if I look over there and Paulsley has responded with anything else except for Grizzly Paradise, it's fired. Just straight up fired. Paulsley is clearly riding a unicorn. Always. According to his Discord, he is always riding a unicorn. And I have one question. Why can't I join? My Thunderdome is almost done. What goes on in the Thunderdome? Every Sunday in the Thunderdome. Bring your cojones as Big Ripper takes on Little Jigsaw this Sunday in the Thunderdome. Like that kind of Thunderdome? I'm working on a zoo in franchise mode. My Nile monitors are fighting due to overcrowding. Sell them! Sell them! Sell them! Sell them! You have little faith in me. That's true. That's, I mean, I can't even argue with that. Love you. See, this is how you know it's going to be a great collaboration. Then I re-endorsed Drew's Planko DLC for Plan Zoo. Yeah! Planko DLC for Plan Zoo. We need so many of the objects in Planet Coaster into Plan Zoo. Could it build me a statue? Me? For me? What if we change these to white instead? I feel like it would look mo better. Let's just do a test run with it. Not super duper white, but just like a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, that's so much better. Gives it an accent, so it's not just a big old poopy building. Because right now, it's a little bit of just a poopy building. I have issues with that because I build a lot of rustic stuff a lot of times, so I have a problem with making poopy looking buildings on accident. Maybe like grays and browns and blacks and stuff like that. Gotta throw in some color every once in a while. Ooh, Z fighting for the loss. There we go. You should just do a Seth Rogen statue, but tell Drew it's him. I mean, would there be a difference? You know, is there really a difference though? Through the middle here, let's do. Yes. What if we put? Where's that big? Bless you. Jeez. Bless you. What are you doing, Murph? Don't make me turn around like that. It hurts my back a lot. You can't turn my back. Man, there's these like East Asian logs or columns, but they're not really columns that are really nice to use, but I never know where they're at. I don't think it's under columns. Maybe it is. African column? No, I don't need that. Is this it? No. That's ginormous. Oh. Maybe it's a centerpiece. One of those random bits where it's just a centerpiece because it is. Props. Maybe it's a prop. Heck, I don't even know where it's at. Anyways. What? What? Hey! Sorry, this is not two heyas in a row. Manubird, hi, how you doing? Welcome in. How you doing? Hey Seth, hi. What's the idea? How do you decorate rooftops realistically? I mean, adding a chimney is a good thing. If you can, and I've added a chimney like this over here. So using the East Asia support and then this column's tip just like that, and then putting smoke billowing out of it. So it's like a chimney. You can put some foliage kind of growing up on it. So I did this because there's this tree over top of it. So there'd be naturally some like seeds or whatever drop down on top of here and that fun stuff. If I wanted to go a step further, which I probably will, maybe I'll just do it now. Anyways, add gutters. There's gutters in the game. So welcome back, Tyler. And again, Manubird, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome on in. So there's roof decorations, and there's a lot of great stuff in the roof decorations. I mean, you could even go up here and if you want to add like a tower or something, you could add this up there, like something like that. Obviously rotate it and make it look a little bit better. But you got vents, and if you have flat roofs, I always recommend. Like these industrial kind of flat roofs, I always recommend lowering it down just like a little bit And because if you look at, oops, I just threw my mouse across the room. If you look at real industrial buildings, there's always a little space, or a little lip, I should say. There we go. There's always a little lip so people can't, you know, just like fall off or whatever. So there's like stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know, just sometimes less is more with them, you know. Sometimes less is more, I guess. So hopefully that helps, I guess. And as always, Google Images. You know, if you have a building in mind that you're wanting to build or look at, just you know, look it up on Google Images or anything like that, and take reference from it. You love the gutters? Aren't they so useful? I wish we had it on Planet Coaster. What do you use for the tunnel parts? For the tunnel parts. Do you mean for the AC, for the aircon up there? If so, there is a set that you need to download, my friend. And I will show it to you in 1 second. I've mentioned it in a few of my videos, so actually if you go to one of my videos, it should be linked down in the description. But if you are talking about these, like the vents here, no worries, it's all good. That is a download of that was a blueprint that someone made from Mr. Domez. And again, if you're following me on YouTube and you watch some of my videos and stuff like that, in the description of my last few videos for Thornton Hills Zoo, I have a link to Mr. Domez's workshop, and he has built stuff. You can just go in here and, you know, kind of build your own however you want to. So he has a bunch of amazingly great realistic looking things, from, you know, vents to newspaper holders here, all made with in-game things, you know, magazines and dumpsters. So he is the king of making realistic kind of objects, I guess you'd say. Now, I will note that while these things are, yes, yeah, they are amazing, they're awesome, do note that these are all made of individual pieces. So one barrel is 230 pieces. I say that because, and not many people have zoos that get this big yet, if you make a really big zoo and you like spam, let's say, you know, 1,000 of these barrels, it can start to bog your system down a little bit. You know, again, because each of these, like each one is 60 pieces each. Each one of these is 203 pieces each. So, you know, mind you, you're not going to spam around 1,000 dumpsters or whatever like that. But, you know, things like this barrel, you know, 230 pieces each, does look amazing. It's awesome. It's really great to use, but just be mindful, I guess, of piece counts and stuff like that. So here we have manhole covers that you can sink into the ground there. But yeah, again, if you haven't already, go on my my YouTube videos there. The most recent one, not the Paulsley Paradise, but the recent Thornton Hills Zoo one with the Timberwolf, will have a link to it there as well. So how do you even make a newspaper rack? You want to see? This is how you get better at the game as well. I know, Pippi, you have a lot of questions about getting better and stuff like that. This is how you get better at the game. You take other people's stuff where you're like, how did they make that? And then you look how they made it. How did they make it? So it looks like he took the Planet Zoo sign bracket, recolored it. Looks like he took a bunch of those. Yep, so use those because they're a very small piece, so it's very useful. And then on the inside, it looks like primitive square. So there's a square. There's a triangle. There's another triangle. See, just a bunch of pieces just to fill in the gaps. For the paper, used a gutter and stacked it on top of each other. So this is what you do. This is what I did in Planet Coaster. If I saw something and I was just like, well, how did you get it, and you take it apart and then you learn, you know? So like for this, what is all that? I mean, I kind of have an idea. Yeah, the gutter caps, yeah. So you can just start to see where Paulsley and I mentioned it in our video today for the collaboration, but I guess the biggest secret or the biggest hint for Planet Zoo to be a better builder is to manipulate pieces. Don't treat pieces like they're supposed to be treated. If you have a piece that's like a example, roofs. You know, we have our thatch roofs, and people would be like, oh, that goes with African sets. Not necessarily. You know, don't be afraid to throw you know, a thatch roof piece, you know, over here and kind of sink it in, and only use, you know, maybe you just want to use just the ridge lines here, so it's just, you just use that, and then you have to cover up the you know, don't use pieces only for what they're intended for. Then you're really limiting yourself if you play like that. Look at the pieces that you have in game and view them as a Lego set. Every single piece is to your disposal to use whatever you want for it. And that even goes for habitat pieces as well. I will use these climbable logs because they're so tiny a whole lot to make, like, you know, example. I saw some people saying there's not enough fencing in the game and there should be more fencing. Sure, make it. You want to make a fence? Make a fence. You know, if there should be more fencing, we have the tools. You can go here and go here, and yeah, I want to have a log fence. Bam, you know, bam and bam. New fence. There we go. Look at that fence. So yeah, you just gotta, I know a lot of the new players and stuff like that, especially, it's kind of hard to put yourself in that mindset, I guess you'd say, to just vastly manipulate pieces, but do that, you know? The pieces are there at your disposal to use however you want to. All right, I do want stuff hanging down from here. Maybe we'll have some lights hanging down, or just some general ropes and, like, let's see, props. Let's try just hanging some ropes. Some ropes. Oh, before I forget, because I actually need to put it here. Another piece that y'all should really get from Mr. Domez, if you haven't already, is the archer, is the angry archer. The angry archer is life. I love it. Now you might be asking, what the heck is up with the archer? So in Planet Coaster, we had an archer animatronic, and it was the same size as the in-game guests. We didn't get that in Planet Zoo, unfortunately, so Mr. Domez made the archer's cousin, and he's angry because his cousin isn't in the game, so he's an angry archer. But he's an in-scale piece that you can plop down anywhere to make sure that you're building in scale. So greetings from the Netherlands. Greetings, Shyla. Hello, Shyla. How are you? Greetings from the United States. How was your? Let's see. It's late evening for you. It's late, isn't it? So, so yeah. No, this is really nice to use because, you know, again, I need this right here because I need to know if the rope is too low or not. But now I can see that it's a little bit low, so we can probably actually lift it up. But guests don't get kind of caught up in it, so we can kind of just lift it up, and we're good to go. Oh. Where's the rope? Oh, it's up there. Let's see. Yeah, it's about almost 11:30 for you, and you love the USA. Hello, thank you. Why am I saying thank you? It's as if I founded the country or something. I just live here. I couldn't stop laughing after I saw it in your episode. Isn't it the greatest thing? It's kind of the greatest thing ever. And I mean, it's true too, because if you go in a Planet Coaster build and look, there will just be random archers all over the place. So yeah, it's fantastic. We're gonna block this off over here. We're gonna block this off. Oh, my mouse went away. There it is. Fizz Whiz. Okay, this thing there. Hello, greetings from Norway. Hello, Julie. How are we? Happy late evening to you as well. What are the Dutch zoos like? I've been there 3 times. Love your zoos. Thanks for sharing this with us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there big Dutch zoos? Like famous ones, I guess? I haven't really heard of any big Dutch zoos. I love hearing about different zoos from around the world, though. I'm looking for maybe it's an East Asian piece. Uh-oh. Music. Video paused. Well, don't do that. That was rude. YouTube to pause my video like that. It's like when Netflix does it, you're just like, ah, rude. I'm sitting here eating popcorn and ice cream and cereal, watching. Can't you see? All right. Currently building your first Grizzly Lodge. Ooh, a Grizzly Lodge? Is it gonna be like a hotel then that overlooks like a grizzly habitat? Now I'm just throwing ideas out there for everyone. Oh, excuse me. You like the Burger Zoo and I'm gonna mispronounce it, Renan, because of the pandas. I really like the Bronx Zoo in New York. Have I been there? I've never been to the Bronx Zoo, but I've seen it on Animal Planet. Oh wow, this is a lot bigger than I thought. On Animal Planet, they did a feature on it, and I thought that was really cool. Actually, I'm not really liking where this is going. I would love to visit there. Now, the main zoo that the main zoos that I've visited before are the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago, and I guess you'd say the Milwaukee Zoo in Wisconsin. But the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago is my main zoo. This is the zoo that I go to all the time because it's the closest one to me. That looks good, sure. Burger Zoo is very natural based. Ooh, nice. Based on their natural habitats. That's cool. I like natural habitats. I was correct? Nice. Nailed it. Alright, so we have that blocked off, that. You know what we'll make this? I'm gonna make this like a, No, never mind. I still am thinking that I want to put something down the middle right here. Whether it be like a log or something. Something. Yeah, speaking of bears, the next habitat that we're making in Thornton Hills Zoo is totally gonna be a grizzly bear habitat, by the way. So for all you grizzly bear lovers out there, we are gonna do that next. And I'm loving doing them now because we're in the newer part of Thornton Hills Zoo, which means that we can make the habitats a lot more elaborate and have a bigger budget and stuff like that, so I don't have to like restrain my designing and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I've really had to restrain myself the last few episodes, and it's been annoying. Just to be straight up with you, it's been like, I just want to make something really cool. Dude, I'm gonna find this log. I'm gonna find it. It's an East Asian log. So let me do it this way. There we go. Work smarter, not harder. The London Zoo is awesome, especially their lemur and birdhouse walkthrough areas. I was, I don't know how many of you were watching my zoo design series on YouTube, but I was looking to do the London Zoo for one of the next zoo design series, but then Planet Zoo came out and I got distracted heavily. So I hope to do a few, some more of those zoo design videos for real world zoos and stuff like that. But yeah, London Zoo was definitely on there. We actually have a really nice zoo, or more like a, reservatory. No, you're fine. It's a work in progress. You're totally fine. Called Langdrag. It's filled with wolves and other Scandinavian animals. That's really fun. I'm hoping they add more of those animals to Planet Zoo. Me too. I'm with you. I love to visit zoos when I'm on vacation, so when I'm visiting Chicago, I'm going to check out their zoo. Yeah, there's 2 zoos in Chicago to check out primarily. There's the Brookfield Zoo, which is more of a private zoo, and then there's the Lincoln Park Zoo, which is a public zoo. The Lincoln Park Zoo is one of the oldest zoos in the country, in the United States. It was built in the late 1800s, I think like 1895 or something crazy like that. Is this the one I was looking for? Nope. It is very old, and I know it's going through a huge transition period right now, like a lot of zoos are, from the old zoo to the new zoo. A lot of zoos are going through some transformations, which is really awesome. I am so perturbed right now that we're literally going to go load into another save file where I know the piece that I want is. It's right there. We were getting ready to load into my elephant build just so I could go find this piece. Holy heckaroonies. I was gonna go insane. There we go. Nope. And it's so different because unpainted timber, because this is round, but the other unpainted timbers look like this. So it throws me for a loop. But anyways, that's what I've been trying to find this whole time. I'm glad I found it. All right, now to make it straight. And line it up as close as I can. It's not going to be totally centered. Ooh, it's kind of off too as far as the pitch goes, I think. No, it's just bumpy. Oops. Have you seen what the lemur area looks like? I don't remember offhand, I'll be honest. I don't remember offhand, but it was probably about a month or 2 ago that I looked. I definitely need to redo it and relook there. If y'all aren't already and you want to send me pictures of that kind of stuff, I know this is like a shameless promotion, but whatever. I do have a Discord and you know, Twitter and all that, and you know, I love it, like especially on Discord and stuff, when people send me pictures of like their local zoos or, you know, their habitats that they're doing, or, you know, tweet at me so I can see them and stuff like that. I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, if y'all are, you know, into the socials there and you want to stay up to date, you know, I do have a Discord and Twitter and all that. Links are down in the description down below. I post a lot of pictures as well myself of like the behind the scenes of the builds in between videos and stuff, so yeah. What are some Scandinavian animals? I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't really know. Socials, Mel. Thank you. I'm visiting USA in May, but I'm going to visit Miami and the Everglades Zoo. The Miami Zoo looks awesome. I really would like to visit the Miami Zoo. Everglades Zoo, I think, is that just outside of Orlando? I feel like I've visited that before. Because I used to live in Orlando when I worked at Disney World. And I feel as though I visited the Everglades. Or no, it's not outside Orlando. It's like an hour and a half away or something. I wonder if I can hold these up with this. Does it stick out? Dang, sore thumb. What about the ropa? Heck! I want this to work out so much. Ooh! Ooh, you know what? I might... Might call that even. All right, we'll do that, and we'll actually just lift these up a little bit. Or down, sorry. There we go. Woo. You just joined, thank you, appreciate that. Socials, there we go. Melissa tip jar. Oh, you know what it is? I don't have chatbot up. I don't have chatbot up. So that is why that's not working, Mel. I didn't even think of that. Because I'm really good at streaming. So, you know. My bad. That's on me. And it's too late in the stream for me to get it up. So we're just gonna down in the description down below, my Discord and Twitter, if y'all wanna head on over and hang out over there. So yeah, no chatbot. I goofed up on there. You have lynx, moose, lemming, wolf, Arctic fox, etc. Really, I didn't know that those were Scandinavian. We have a lot of those as well. I just know that those were in Scandinavia as well. I'm crazy. I know. We have to have a moose. Why is there no moose? Travesty against mankind for no moose. Or me. Whoa. Or meese. Travesty, I tell you. That should be good. That doesn't look structurally like it's doing. Man. I do this all the time. I don't even want it anymore. Get out of there. That's a big part of designing too. Doing something and then realizing, you know what? It doesn't look good. Try something else. Let's try something different. From the London Zoo, and I remembered something I was going to say. Yes. Lots of zoos have areas made for shows for birds or small animals, so making one of those would look really cool in this area. We have a small animal house, but the bird show, that'd be kind of cool. I am purposely trying to leave open a lot of spots for when we do get updates down the road for like hopefully like birds and like more North American animals and stuff like that. But yeah, like little details like that, like little shows and stuff like that. It's nice to get reminded to put that stuff in. Stick with me here. Something's happening. Okay, not that. Never mind. What if we took it and did a little rotating? Keep going. Why stop there? Misha, Musach. Look at this, so cute. Thank you. I'm also hoping for better windows and doors. Yeah, always can use more of those. Is Planet Zoo worth buying, and why is it? For me, it definitely is. If you are into, designing, building zoos. And creative control and creative freedom, then yes, this is absolutely a game for you. If you are a management or tycoon kind of player, this game might also be for you as well, because there are animals that you have to obviously care for, and there's a management system with them. You know, you have to make sure that their welfare, nutrition, all that is taken care of. You have to design a habitat for them, make sure that they're happy there and everything. You know, get different plants in there, and there's also a pretty good management system as far as like finances and stuff like that goes as well. So yeah, if you're into management, design, building, and you played the Planet series before, or you've played Zoo Tycoon before and you enjoyed it, I think you'd find enjoyment out of this game as well. I think you would. If you make room in your zoo, just release some of the animals and delete their habitat. Just tell them budget cuts. Yeah. Beat it, scram! It's fun to play for creative persons. A lot of people have crossed from the Sims community because you can go into detail as much as you want. Yeah, I love that. I'm friends with a lot of people in the Sims community, and I love that it was... What's the word? Just, it was, whatever, it was easy to transition over for the Sims players and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool. I was kind of expecting it too. When I was talking to a lot of my Sims player friends, they all kind of seemed collectively really excited for it. So that made me really excited for, you know, the potential of Planet Zoo. And, you know, the reach, I guess I should say, the reach of, like, how big the channels can get as a result and stuff, so. Nah, that's okay. I don't... I keep going back and forth between wanting to make this like an abstract kind of looking thing, but I need to remind myself that we're not in a really an area of the zoo to do that, per se. Whoa, that went rough. All weird. You know, we're just in the North American section, so I'm kind of thinking too much, trying to do too much when little or less would be more. Yeah, that's the way to say it, yes. Mention it's like Lego building. Yeah, I definitely, that's the way I play, though. Now, I always mention to people that, you know, there are several different... What the heck is going on? There are several different ways to play the game, for sure. You know, I just happen to like to play it the miniature model set way, basically, I guess you'd say. Other people like to do it, you know, for the franchise mode and the challenge mode and the finances and stuff like that, and you can definitely do it that way, too. Which animal's my all-time favorite? Chimpanzees. Chimpanzees, without a doubt. I love primates altogether, but chimps have always just kind of held a special place in my heart. Why does that look funky? Whatever. Okay, it's fine. Don't look at it anymore. Just don't even look at it. It's fine. It's perfect. That is one problem with having a lot more freedom of creativity is things can get borked just a little bit, but it's still fantastic. You'd love to see squirrels, raccoons added to the game, but not for habitat. Just like wild trash can knocking over coons. Well, yeah, I was gonna say, just look out my my back door, and you'll see those. You know. Oh wow, that was dumb of me. I realize. Yeah, just look out my front door. I mean, I think we have to deal with a raccoon. Or no, not a raccoon. We have to deal with a rabbit right now, but I think it's gone into hibernation. But yeah. That is my natural environment right there with raccoons, squirrels, all that fun stuff. No, I lost it. I lost it. I have the hardest time building their habitats, but again, it's a lot more to build with the climbing stuff and all. Yeah, it is. And you know what I noticed today is that the climbing is different for babies to adults. So, for example, I got my adult timber wolves all set up, all good to go. Got their climbing, you know, all good. And then they had their little pups, and then the pups broke out. And I'm just like, what the heck? And it just, yeah, it turns out that, yeah, they could escape in different areas that their, you know, their mom and dad couldn't. I was like, are you kidding? That's kind of awesome, but what the heck? Do an amazing orangutan video. Super fun watching the climbing when you can get it right. Yeah, it is. That's the thing, is getting it right. That can get a little bit testy. Yeah, I have a few habitat speed build videos up in between Thornton Hills Zoo. If y'all aren't following those, I've done a crocodile, lion, elephant, and now orangutan. I think the next one's going to be a cheetah. But yeah, those are fun to do in between Thornton Hills Zoo, and I kind of let myself loose a little bit as far as theming, excuse me, and stuff like that goes. Up until then, they've all been based on concept art as well from real world zoos. Soon I'm gonna stop doing that though and just start designing my own. Well, like this one was like all me, just kind of taking what I've learned from real concept arts and stuff like that. All right, this is kind of looking neato. I'm actually really enjoying how this is turning out. I'm very official with my terming. It's looking neato. That's an official term, neato. Oops, that's what I forgot. Damn it! There we go. Is that floating? Did I do that all and it was floating? Nope. They have cheetahs? You betcha. Yes, we do. Did you figure out what was causing the bug slash issue with the climbing where it showed they could climb but they wouldn't? No, yes, I did. Someone commented and let me know that not all primates can climb on things, basically. So like the orangutans can't climb on the vines, even though it says they can. They're too heavy. So that's what I was told. Oh. Yeah, and I thought that, like, it just threw me off because I had, like, whatever. I mean, it's kind of whatever, but I just realized that the mechanic is sticking out. Yeah, it's annoying when it says that they can climb it, but then, you know, they weren't able to. And I was just like, okay, well, I mean, that's fine, but just tell me they can't climb it. You know? Whatever. So I just had to finick with it and finally get the oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I just finally had to put the logs down. We were making a ticket booth area and couldn't put things in the same area as before. Oof. That's never fun. Alright, that's pretty simple, pretty well and good. Let's add in some random little bits of scenery. Props. Yeah, the builder gets a little finicky. It definitely does. It takes a steady hand and steady mind, to say the least, sometimes. If everyone loved gaming, the holidays would be so much easier for me. You get a game, and you get a game, and you get a game. I'll just give them games anyways. Like, you know what? You have to like gaming. You have to. You don't get a choice in the matter anymore. That's why I give everyone gift cards. Here, go get it yourself. I don't know what you want anymore. Everyone in my family's, you know, getting to that age where it's just like, I don't know, you're over the age of 9. So you could like this, you could like this, or you could like something not even on my radar right now. Kind of hide the logo so it just looks like regular crates, I guess. I think this year might be gift card year, yeah. Sounds like you're a fan of Gamer Santa from Viva La Dirt League? Fruitcake? What are you doing? Here's the next box. What? What is your history with gaming? What made you get into it? That's a good question. I've been gaming since I was probably 5 or 6, and that was because my dad got the family, quote unquote. My dad bought the family a Super NES, and the first game that I played was like Super Mario Brother, the original one with like Duck Hunt and stuff like that. And I kind of just kept gaming ever since then. I just kind of kept getting the up-to-date systems as they came out, and then once like sim and management and tycoon games got big, what were those original ones, like Ant Colony and Theme Park and the like Sim Earth series and stuff like that. That's when I started doing a lot of PC gaming. And right when I started PC gaming, like it was almost instantaneous that I always was more attracted to the building aspect of like video games. So like SimCity 2000 came out, and like I immediately was attracted to that, and Theme Park and all that. Like I just always kept building, and it just kind of always stayed like that. I just always from there on out, I just kind of always updated my computers and played like, you know, Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, The Sims, all the Sims except for this recent one. I have the recent one, but I don't really like it that much. I don't know. It's just not that fun. So yeah, I don't know. I just kind of been. I've just always been a gamer, I guess, you know? It's been in my blood. And I've kind of always built like this, where I've always liked to recreate reality rather than make fantasy. I do like doing fantasy kind of builds that are like out there and, you know, really like think outside the box, don't get me wrong, but I always just like to come back and use reality as a jump off point, I guess. So, hi Drew, it's 11 here, so I'm gonna get some sleep. Tyler, hey, have a good one, dude. Thanks so much. I appreciate you hanging out. We'll see you next time. What happened to the shared libraries in Steam? I don't know. But how do you get them to spawn on the new guest spawners and not the other ones? Make sure you have a new entrance close to your new guest spawner. So for example, Thornton Hills entrance is, or spawner is right here, and the entrance is right over here. So there's not much distance. There's only the distance right here. So I think it's based on distance. You agree Sims 4 was a letdown when you went from The Sims 3? Well, yeah, and it's just like, I know it still has a ginormous community, and I'm not putting that down at all. Absolutely. I know that, you know, the Sims community has taken that game and made so many amazing, like, community challenges and, you know, mods and just all this amazing stuff that the community has done. But to me, the game is just really lacking gameplay. So the builder in it is really, really good too. And I just say all these things to like make it sound like I'm not just like some, you know, oh boy, just another random YouTuber shitting on The Sims. Like, no, like I do find things that are great in it, and I wish it was a lot better because I like The Sims as a franchise. It just, yeah, it just wasn't, it was just very shallow, and it was more annoying to me when I was playing rather than having fun, which was a bummer. And I hope that whenever they feel like doing it, The Sims 5 will be better. However, I don't think we'll see Sims 5 forever because the Sims community loves to buy their expansion packs. So as long as they keep buying packs, EA will keep pumping them out. You're backstage for the orangutans, top shelf, really beautiful. Oh, thank you, I appreciate that. 100 baby challenge in Planet. Oh god, Cat Lady Simmer would go crazy. I hope Emily shows up sometime. I don't know if you all, for the Sims community, if you all know who Cat Lady Simmer is. She streams on Twitch a lot, but her and I are really good friends, and I like kind of helped her get going with streaming and stuff like that, I guess you could say. So her and I have always been pretty good friends in the content creation world. But yeah, she's done the 100 baby challenge a few times over and always goes nuts, I feel like. It's a really uncomfortable noise that it makes whenever I place that down. I don't like it. It makes me feel weird. Who put that pineapple there? I missed the backstage. Real life got in the way. Can you show it again? I have a whole video on it, Rebecca. You can watch the video if you'd like to. For the orangutan enclosure? Yeah. Or not the orangutan, the yeah, the orangutans. I haven't done much backstage in Thornton yet, really. Alright, that's probably enough. I don't really need to add too much crap. I say as I keep adding more stuff. You're okay, Rebecca. If you gave all your creative integrity... Wait, I'm sorry. Speaking of baby challenges, if you gave all your creative integrity, what's a video you can make with Planet Zoo to get 1 million views? Release all animals into the same habitat and watch them fight. That's the thing, is you don't even, the videos that get the most views usually don't have creative integrity about them. They're usually, you can look it up right now. One of the top videos for Planet Zoo is probably something along the lines of, I built a zoo, but it's the worst zoo ever. That's what people traditionally like, but I can't do that. I can't do it. I've thought about it because it's almost like a shortcut, I guess. I mean, it's not even guaranteed. I shouldn't make it sound like it's like those people didn't do any work at all, because obviously they had to build up their communities and stuff like that, but that's just, yeah. Yeah. Let's build this a little bit out here. I think I'm kind of done with this thing right there. I don't really know what else I want to add to it. Ooh, what can we add to this? This is good. Might not even add a... Okay, I got it. Habitat. Pose. What's up? Because yeah, I am. Not too much longer though. I am gonna be wrapping up here pretty shortly. My back is starting to really kind of give me some issues. I've been having to shift myself around every so often. Time to go take some fun medicine. Pain medicine. I hate this time of year. Sales are slow. Well, it's about to pick up though. I mean, it's almost that, you know, it's about to probably have your first snow or whatever. You know what's gonna happen then. Can you change my everything for free? Can you change my wiper blade? Yes, right after I change your light fluid, I will change your wiper blades. But only after I'm done finding where to put your light fluid in. I should go say hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. 10 points to the person who knows what movie that's from. Say the blessing. The what, dear? The blessing. Oh. I pledge allegiance to the flag. I love this time of year. Alright. I don't want to watch those videos, but the animals do attack each other and people. They don't attack people, but they do attack each other. So like a lion will attack a zebra and stuff. CBD stuff for your back on your next payday? Yeah. I had some of that and we ran out, so now I have to go to the prescription bullcrap. Which I don't like. We've already had our first snow. It was exactly that, a snowpocalypse. Yeah, we had ours on Halloween. Halloween was literally our first snow. Yeah, I do need to go pick up some more of that CBD oil. I'm so happy I live somewhere in a state that is cool with it. It is like completely switched up my pain medicine, I guess you'd say, intake from pills to that stuff, and it works wonders. I love it. It's so good. Nothing wrong with that stuff. It's really a little bit tall. I have 800s of ibuprofen that I don't plan on having to take. I hope not. That's too much, man. It's too much. They started selling them at local video stores around here. We have a Family Video down the road, and they started selling CBD oils at Family Video so that they can increase their sales overall. Because, you know, obviously, you know, with Netflix and Disney Plus and all those, they got to do what they have to do kind of thing. So they started selling CBD oils. Like, hey, man, whatever you got to do, all right? If it brings people in, you do you, boo-boo. You make that money. That's fantastic. I don't really like any of this. Just switch it just a little bit. Yeah, this will be more so. Love that movie. Don't Piss Me Off. Art from Christmas Late Scene is my go-to. Go Train Holidays and Jelly of the Month. Good. Yes. All these sorts of bitches. Yes. Christmas Vacation. So 10 points to Rebecca, because I didn't have to tell her what it was. Christmas Vacation, maybe not even maybe, is the greatest holiday movie, Christmas movie out there, period, bar none. No question. You couldn't hear a dump truck if it was driving through a nitroglycerin plant. Now I want to do a Christmas movie, like, watch together. Mel, what was that site that you told me about before that you could watch movies with the community together? Maybe we should pick that back up now that the community's gotten bigger. It was a Rabbit, right? And we could go on Discord and everyone could hang out and watch movies together. I think that'd be kind of fun to do. What do y'all think? Whoa, someone's got a big car. You only went at a time and it lasted like 3 hours? Oh, the CBD, yeah. 2020 called Bee Simulator. I saw that. Looks like crap. Is that what you said? Yeah, we do. We have a video rental store chain that's been around for decades. Drew lives in the 2000s, yeah. Oh my goodness, he got addicted to CBD oil. How did he pull that one off? How did he pull that one off, Clock? She wrapped up her damn cat. That's awesome. Yeah, Rabbit, yes, we should look into that. Oh, of ibuprofen. Are they trying to fucking kill you? Holy heck, man. I mean, I'm no anything intelligent, but holy heck. That's how I introduce. That's my professional title. I'm no professional anything. I'm good at exactly nothing. Or no, switch that. I'm good at a lot of things. I'm an expert at nothing. That's been my life always. You just never committed yourself, son. Yep, that's true. That's true. If I had a dime for every time a teacher or parent or someone, you gotta commit yourself. Yeah, but I don't. That sounds so depressing. Kids, don't model after me. There's one Blockbuster left in the States. Yeah, it's in like... It's somewhere out west, I think. It's in Alaska. Oh, okay. Although it recently closed. I think that there was one that was still open, but it wasn't like a Best Buy. It had the Best Buy name for like marketing sake, but it wasn't like a Best Buy, you know what I mean? You know what I say? I say the free market did its job and Best Buy shouldn't have been so dumb in its business. How about that? Is it bad that that's how I think immediately when like when Toys R Us went out of business and everyone was like, oh my god, Toys R Us is going out of business, bruh. So sad. I was like, why? They were negligent and bad business people, so they went bankrupt. And then people were like, we have to save Toys R Us. I was like, why? What do you talk, like, if they went bankrupt now, do you think like if we all pool together money and help them go not bankrupt that all those people are gonna magically start shopping at Toys R Us again? Like, no. Toys R Us went bankrupt because they were dumb. That's what happens when a business goes out of business usually. They did some bad things or some stupid decisions, so now they're going bankrupt. It doesn't mean that we should just because you have member berries about a place that we have to save it. Like, no, that's not how that works at all. Am I taking crazy pills? That was before my MRI and all the proper treatment I got for my back, so yeah, socialized. You should be the guy on Twitch that streams movies for us all to watch together and comments. That's, yeah, I'd kind of like to try something like that. Was the rest one out of business? Yeah, like 2 years ago or something like that. Pretty sure. Yep, they went super out of business. And everyone was like, wow, 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 wow. How did this happen? It's like, well, because all its demographic grew up. The 90s kids grew up and stopped, you know, going. That's what happened. Well, that's what happened. And Amazon, you know. Who goes to stores? Seriously, who's going to a store this holiday season for your Christmas shopping? And I'm sure there's, you know, some things you have to go to the store for. But your main source of what you're buying this year, are you going to a store? No. No, you're not going to a store. You're clicking on the app. You're getting it from Amazon. I am too, probably. It's not a slight, it's just, you know, that's why a lot of brick and mortar stores that we're so used to are going out of business. It's like Bob Dylan always, it's like what Bob Dylan said. The times, they are a-changin'. Never go wrong with a good Bob Dylan quote. It's in Oregon. Yeah, I thought it was out west, but not like that west. They're still around, but no longer affiliated with it. Right, yep, that's what I saw too. That's exactly what I saw as well. But they still have like the Best Buy name, but yeah, it's not like there's a Best Buy corporation or anything like that still. Ooh, off by air. Target is bringing Toys R Us back. It's going to be inside the Target section. That makes sense. That makes sense. There doesn't need to be an entire store for toys. There's just not a market for it anymore. There's really not. As far as like a big retail store like that, I don't think. But yeah, having a section in a store, yeah, that totally makes sense. 100%. Wow, why is this so far off? Oh, because it's not lined up. There it is, okay. Oh, God. So which makes this tilting. Damn. Pick up. No stores. True, I can buy a gift for my niece from Amazon and ship it to my brothers and be the best aunt ever and never actually have to see the child. It's the best for it's the best for everybody, really, when you break it down like that. No stores for you. I even have my groceries delivered. You do pick up groceries? We go out and get our groceries. We do that as well. However, who is it? Walmart or whoever are offering like free pickup. No. Why is this going on? I don't understand. We noticed that they're doing free pickup and stuff like that. It's like, dang, it's like becoming difficult not to do all that stuff. Okay, whatever. If it's off, it's off. I'm not gonna sit here and think with it forever. It is what it is. Yes, yes. Okay, better. Man, that was gonna drive me freaking insane. Dang. Oh, is it already that time? Holy heck. I'll be right back. Michael's heading to work. I'll catch up with chat when I get back. Y'all can just watch the wolves or something for now. If I can find them. Your animal escaped. What? Oh, fine. It can escape. I don't even care. Fuck that camel. All right. Here, watch the wolves. I'll be right back. All right. Hi, Murphy. I know, now Mama's not home, so you're going to be back here. We're going to have to wrap up the stream now, aren't we? Uh-huh. I see it in your eyes. Okay. Yeah, that was my fear. I didn't mean to go this late. Didn't mean to go this long. So we're going to wrap up there. Just because, yeah, again, my attention is going to have to go towards Murphy. If you all don't know Murphy, he is my, what is he now? 18-week, Pointer Labrador puppy. So, but yeah, that was fun though. We got a lot of little fun things done there. So let me just catch up with the chat there, and then we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. We'll focus on the wolves, I guess. Yeah. There we go. Just catch up with your chats here. You gonna put your boat tour shelter thingy on the workshop? I can do that if you guys would like to. Absolutely. Camels still, yeah, the camels. Pretty much, are you streaming every day mostly or at random? So for now, the schedule for streaming is going to be every single Saturday at 1 p.m. CST, so Central Standard Time. So yeah, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time is what we are shooting for right now. So, but yeah, hey, thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out. I do appreciate it. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you haven't caught up with all the fun videos, there have been a lot of videos that have come out the past week and stuff like that. There's a lot of Thornton Hills Zoo covering the timber wolf habitat here. We have a few one-off builds of the orangutans and elephants and all that fun stuff. As I've mentioned before, if you're not already, be sure to go down the description down below, check out my Twitter and Discord, join up over there as I do post behind-the-scenes pictures and in progress pictures of the builds and stuff like that. And it's always fun just to kind of hang out with y'all, you know, even when we're not streaming or uploading videos and stuff. So awesome. Hey, thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out. I appreciate you all as always. And until the next episode of whatever comes out, have a good one.